You learn so much from observing, right? Not so much what we teach our kids, but our kids see how we act. And
Totally.
you got a chance to see your mom being resilient, and she had good days and bad days. And whether you get encouraged to be an entrepreneur or not, you got to see what it was like in real time growing up.
Totally. And I really, Frank, I really start to see, I remember one day and my parents told me that they were building a new home. And I was like, we're doing what? And they're building this new home. And the home had a fireplace in the bedroom, and it had a hot tub. And I'm like, what's going on here? So I really, to be honest with you, I really associated entrepreneurship and a different lifestyle for your family, because we really grew up. I would say, I wouldn't even say middle class. I would say, below middle class. My dad delivered bakery products. My mom, before she started her school, was a controller for a construction company. And when my mom decided to take that risk and take that leap and open her own preschool and be an entrepreneur, it had a huge impact on me.
So, what was going on in your life in 1994 when you founded it? Were you working in a job first? And did you start this? I want to kind of hear how you
Love
started
it.
out now.
Well, I always say that I was an excellent CD student in high school. I did not like high school. I didn't care for what was being taught, the subjects. I think that's one of the main reasons why children today look at education as a task and not a right to enjoy. My wife and I have five children on our own, and I think that feeling still hasn't changed. But I knew right away that I was not going to go off to college. So I went to go work with my dad delivering bakery products, which it was kind of it was a we were considered independent operators,
Hmm.
almost like a franchise partner. We got 21% of the total of product we took out the door. So I like that because it taught me the more I hustled and the more I worked, the more that I could earn. So I did that for about 7 years, getting up every morning at 3 a.m. in the morning. Yep, 3 a.m. and delivering bakery products at 19 years old. And one day my mom came in my bedroom, so I'm still at home at 19, working. And she said, you have $14,000 in the bank. And I said, yeah. And she said, I think you should go and buy a piece of real estate. And I said, okay. So, a week later, I bought a townhouse, converted it into two apartments, and I was in the real estate game. I was receiving $450 for the bottom floor, 325 for the top floor. My mortgage was 556. I remember that I
Wow.
remember these numbers like they were yesterday. So I'm making $200 per property. And my next goal was every day that I was on that bakery truck, Frank, my goal was how can I earn another and save another $14,000, because that was what I wanted to do. So by the time I left my bakery business, I had accumulated 24 apartments, and was well on my way. My mom, and a little bit later, 1993, comes back in my bedroom again and says, "You know what I think is really hot right now?" I said, "What, mom?" She's like, "Tanning salons." They're like tanning salons. I was like, so next thing 60 days later, I'm opening a tanning salon with 10 beds, two nail technicians. So I'm in the bakery business, I'm in the real estate business, I'm in the tanning and nail salon
Time
business.
out. Time out. First of all, what kid listens to their parent?
Frank, I tell my kids that every single day. The difference between the old generation and the new
Yes.
generation is, I said, I mean, today's generation, if you walked in a child's bedroom, because I have those children, I
Right.
had those children,
Me
and
too.
said, I think you should do this, to be like, get out of my bedroom. But I didn't say that. Thank God
Thank
I did not say that.
Right. Thank God you did not. Okay, so mom comes in with the next greatest business opportunity. Of course, you know what's going through my head. Mom, why aren't you doing these things if this is great ideas?
Well, you know what? That's so funny you said that, because then after that, 1994, this gentleman comes to my mom because he had seen her preschool, my dad's preschool here in our community. and wanted her to open up a preschool in his community, which was 45 minutes away.
Okay.
So she tells me this story, and I said, can I go with you? Can I go with you and listen to what this guy has to say?
Mm-hmm.
So my mom said, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not driving 45 minutes. I really enjoy just walking across the lawn to my preschool. And that's when I raised my hand for the first time and said, I'll do it. And
Wow.
she said, okay. And so the tables kind of reversed there for 1 second, right? And so 1994, we opened our first location in the Enchanted Forest Shopping Center here in Maryland. The business was wildly successful from day one. And I think that was because of my mom and dad's mentoring me, showing me how the business worked, how to hire, how to pick the right location, how to pick the right contractor. 1996, opened my second location. And Frank, I knew at that point, this is what I wanted to dedicate my life to. So went back, sold the real estate, sold the townhouses, sold the bakery business, and sold the tanning salon, and now have been doing this for the last 30 years.
That is amazing. And so, Richard, there's something very different about what you've done of anybody I have interviewed so far. And I've interviewed to date, close to 100 franchise founders. You have 26 franchise locations and 26 company-owned locations. I haven't come across any founder that has opened as many corporately owned as they have franchise. Not to mention, when you founded the company in 94, you were, running this for close to about
26 years.
26 years before you even got into franchising.
Totally.
So you've got, 24 company-owned locations. What brought you to even franchising at that point in 2019?
Boredom. I was bored. I think that's one of our secrets. The secret to our success and the reason why Celebree has exploded in the last 4 years. I think you might have mentioned we have around 120 schools that are in development. When folks first came here expecting to see which we would call an emerging brand, it already had the infrastructure.
Sure.
It already had the resources. So when folks came here for the first time, we already had 4 people in the marketing department. We already had, 6 people in operations. The team, the structure was already in place and doing very well because they were already supporting the 26 corporate locations that we own and operate. So it did not come off as, and still doesn't, as a new brand and still trying to prove the concept.
What you've done is you've accomplished something that I haven't seen anybody else do, and that is to be able to grow your business well, company-owned locations, yet to cross over to franchising after doing something 25 years because you're dealing with a completely different animal, right?
Frank, you know what? It's funny you said that because, again, one of the reasons that we're so successful with our franchise partners is that I say this all the time. In our hearts, we're preschool providers.
Right.
We're preschool providers first that decided to franchise instead of we're in the franchise business. So when you said that, I really don't agree with you. We're in the preschool business. And I think our franchise partners really appreciate that. As I spoke to you or said earlier, I was the one that was over cleaning my mom's. I've driven the vans. I've been in the classrooms. I have built and helped build our process and procedures and training that allows for our team to be successful. And those process procedures have been developed over the last 30 years. So we're still not testing our process and procedures, even though we test those every day through our own schools. So even before our franchise partners know or that something can be better in our process procedures, we've already identified it and already made the improvements. So I think being in the preschool business along with our franchise partners, I think there's huge value in that.
Thank you for tuning into the Emerging Franchise Brands podcast. For additional insights, guest applications, and to stay connected, visit us at efbpodcast.com. The Emerging Franchise Brands podcast is for entertainment purposes only, and the views expressed do not necessarily represent those of Emerging Franchise Brands, its host Frank Fiume, or Emerging Franchise Group, LLC. Any discussed franchise or investment opportunity requires thorough investigation, obtaining proper disclosure documents, and expert consultation before making any investment decisions. The podcast and its hosts do not offer professional advice or endorsements, and they hold no responsibility for actions, representations, accuracy, or consequential damages related to the podcast content.